It's the stress of worry and problems, and especially when the problems are at home and you're doing your business and you've got to come home and you've got to deal with all the problems and they don't go away. There's no support. You're by yourself, and you just realize at one point in your life you're better off by yourself than having to carry everyone's burden for no reason other than people who want to make your life difficult because they're miserable and they want to make people's life miserable. I'm dealing with so many people like that right now. I spend more time on the phone during the week ministering to other people than I do doing business lately. But that's just always the way it's been. And you go in 2013 when I shut down my other company to 2014 when I start to build this one up, rebrand, and start doing it until 2014 I started the podcast. For those of you that, so we're talking going on, 8 years now? We're at 2022, 2014, 8 years of doing the podcast. You're working, 3 years getting it all done. And at one point you guys would hear me say, man, I'm constantly getting cold. I'm constantly getting cold. I'm constantly getting cold. Well, I found out it was the stress. When you're constantly stressed, how you doing? You're gonna get sick all the time. And that was one of the things I had to learn to manage, was the stress that I was having, which is completely different stress than I've had before working. This time it was different. This time it was building a business where I had to have employees, where I had to have different things. Dealing with subcontractors was easy. I hire you, you didn't do the job, I fire you. Or, you didn't turn in the right work, I held your payment until, you got it fixed. Things you can't do with employees. It's a totally different mindset. So I learned to manage that stress, and I wasn't sick anymore. I learned to take some more time off for me. But in 2017, I was already working. At that point, I was working by 2017, at 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, I was working. It was hectic. I was working. I had one tech, but I was still working 14, 16 hours a day in the field. 12 to 14 on average in the field. Because of all the work that I had to do that nobody else could do. Then I would still have to come home and be a dad and be a husband and do all this. And I started noticing this would get just cramped up. My back would get cramped up, my lower back. I got to the point I needed to get a massage therapist. The guy would say, man, I don't know what you do, but I've never worked on anybody's back that was this knotted up for an hour. And still, you're gonna need like a weekly. I literally had a point where I had a massage therapist on a weekly basis, because everybody handles stress differently. I internalize it. I'm not the guy that blows up. I'm not cussing at everybody. I just internalize the stress. My body picks it up and it starts to do this and tighten up everybody. And when 2017 happened, we had a trifecta. We had a hurricane coming in. I had been a week without my blood pressure medication because they discontinued it, and the doctors had to change my prescription, and I couldn't get it anywhere. There was a day before the hurricane. That same day of the hurricane, my wife tells me, hey, I want a divorce. I'm calling it quits. Here I am, was running around with high blood pressure. Hurricane is coming. I'm trying to run frenzy, fixing all this, preparing for all this. I have to deal with this now at home. And my blood pressure just shoots to the roof. We were talking like 160 over like 110. Go to the doctor. She's like, we got to get you on medication right away. They put it. Oh my God, I felt like I was on chemotherapy. Here I am throwing up, head spinning for a week. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. Thank God the hurricane was coming. I'd canceled a lot of things because that was happening. And then I started getting chest pains and chest pain and chest pain. I go to the doctor. He says, you're under a lot of stress. Your blood pressure has been high. Let me give you some nitroglycerin. Give me nitroglycerin. Thing calms down. He says, you're going straight to the hospital. we need to check you out because you might have a heart problem. So that checks out. I'm going through all of these tests for 2 to 3 days in the hospital. Turns out there's nothing wrong with my heart. I got a calcium score test. I've had every test done. My calcium score was like I had 0 plaque. It was like a 20 from a scale. She told me from a scale to 0 to 2,000, you've got 20. You've got no plaque in your arteries. Your arteries aren't clogged. You don't have any heart disease. There's no valve damage, nothing. You're just under a lot of stress. No kidding, right? But because I internalize it, my body, I've already been dealing with the massage therapist for a couple months now. It's getting worse. I'm running on adrenals.